Initially in the pilot, the character of Kramer was called Kessler. I was living in New York at the time, and I had a next-door neighbor who was a bit of an eccentric fellow named Kenny Kramer, who was always coming into my apartment and just always prevailing upon me to do things I didn't want to do. And he was a little overbearing at times, but very lovable and funny.
And we started hanging out, and we became very good friends. I mean, best friends. It's, you know, and it's unlikely for us two guys to be such good friends because we're very different kinds of people. I'm an outgoing, fun-loving, ready-to-party kind of guy. And, you know, this is George Costanza.
And he always had a lot of women there, and things were always happening in his apartment. It was sort of like the mecca of the building. And I thought this would be a good character also for the show. You could live next door to this Kramer fellow.
Yeah, as he came in as an actual real-life wacky neighbor.
Jerry, I think, at first thought, oh, well, that's too cliche, the wacky neighbor, you know, but I knew this guy very well, and I thought I could write this character.
One day Larry comes in and says to me, Kramer, Seinfeld asked me to write this pilot with him, and I think I'm going to do it, but you know what? I'd like to base a character on you and call him Kramer. Is that okay? And I said, certainly it's okay, as long as I get to play Kramer. And he says, you can't be Kramer. And I said, but I am Kramer.
And one of the characters will be based on you.
No, I don't think so.
What do you mean you don't think so?
I don't like it.
I don't understand what the big deal is.
Okay, I'll tell you what. You can do it on one condition.
Whatever you want.
I get to play Kramer.
You can't play Kramer.
I am Kramer.
But you can't act.
I still didn't want to call him Kramer because I knew my real neighbor Kramer. And I knew that by calling this character Kramer, it was going to open up a can of worms that I didn't really want to get involved in.
Larry was positive and correctly predicted that if we involve Kenny Kramer in any way in this show, he will exploit it to the maximum and become a complete pain, which of course he did. He's actually, I think, a great guy and a funny guy. But that name just had something that no other name had.
Jerry liked the name Kramer so much, he got so attached to this name. And also, don't forget, while we were working on the first couple of shows in my apartment, which was right next door to Kramer's, and we worked in my apartment, Kramer was coming in while we were working.
I'd be on the phone with Jerry, they'd be writing in Larry David's apartment, and Jerry would say, shh, shh, the real Kramer just came in. And then Jerry would tell me what the real Kramer was doing. He's going to the kitchen, he's searching through, he got something. Okay, he left.
And I eventually prevailed on Larry, said, we have to change it to Kramer. There's no other name. There's something in that name that just rings true.
Kramer eventually started calling the Castle Rock Legal Department and said, listen, if you're going to use this name, and he gave a whole list of things, demands that he wanted, including some financial demands, and he got everything he wanted.
I didn't realize that George was Larry. Probably, it was in that, you know, that first season with that confidence order of 4. It was somewhere in there. There was some. I can't remember exactly what it was. There was a moment in the script that, you know, with my fine classical actor training, I went to Larry and I said, Larry, first of all, this would never happen to anybody, but if it did, no human being would react like this. And Larry said, what do you mean? This happened to me, and this is exactly what I did. And I went, oh, okay. And it was kind of at that moment that I understood that he was writing his own experiences and his own reactions.
The Stakeout, which was based on an incident that actually happened to me when I was with a woman who I had dated, Monica Yates, after we were dating. And we were at this restaurant, and there was this other woman who I kind of had my eye on, and I couldn't quite go into high flirt gear right in front of her. And so I knew the building, somehow in the conversation, the building she worked at, and I actually did the stakeout move.
The robbery was, you know, I had this apartment on 81st Street that was getting robbed pretty regularly.
In real life, they cut right through the wall from the hallway to go into his apartment and rob it. And I remember that, and maybe that was the seed for the idea.
Look, Jerry, I'm sorry. You have insurance, right, buddy?
No.
How can you not have insurance?
Because I spent my money on the Clapco D29. It's the most impenetrable lock on the market today. It has only one design flaw. The door must be closed.
This little Vietnamese man opened this little restaurant. It was a four-table restaurant called the Dream Cafe, okay, right on my corner. And it was amazing because I just got fascinated by this guy.
Tom Leopold actually took me aside and said, you know, this is based on a real guy.
It was a tiny, tiny little postage stamp of a restaurant, but his menu was enormous. But the most poignant thing was nobody ever went in. And I thought, well, if I go in, I live next door, I'm going to have to always go in. The other co-story on that was George taking the IQ test. And this absolutely was a true story that happened to me years and years ago. I was dating a woman who was, I guess, studying to be a psychiatrist. And she always said she could give me an IQ test. And I was just afraid of it. Because, I mean, I didn't want the truth to be known to myself. You know, but what if it's even lower than I thought, you know?
The nose job came about because I have a very close friend whose father works in the jewelry exchange in Manhattan. And he's constantly getting people in. And he's got such gall that he would literally say to people all the time, he'd go, you know, you're a very pretty girl. He'd say to customers all the time, you know, you're a very pretty girl. You should get your nose fixed. You know, like and you know, you'd say to him, you know, my friend would say to him, Dad, you can't say things like that. And he'd go, hey, believe me, she'll come back and thank me. So I was thinking it would be really funny if George were dating a girl who would be out of his league except for the fact that she has this large nose. And it's this great unsaid thing. And then Kramer just says to him one day,
it's amazing how many beautiful women live in New York.
Well, you're as pretty as any of them. Just need a nose job.
And once I remembered that incident from my past, in which I'm sorry to say I did try and work out a deal where I could actually have this this physical relationship with someone, and yet not have it get to the point where we were boyfriend and girlfriend. And the only way we could do that was if we followed these particular rules, and that became the deal episode.
Because this is very good.
And that would be good.
That would be good too. The idea is to combine the this and the that. But this cannot be disturbed.
Yeah, we just want to take this and add that.
A lot of our personal issues on Seinfeld, Jerry's, Larry's, my own, were bathroom issues. And like I told you, I had the office next to theirs. They had a bathroom in their office, which is kind of a real privilege. But I kind of would just take it upon myself to use their bathroom all the time, which led to the story where George was fired by his boss for using the boss's bathroom.
And I got hired as a writer on Saturday Night Live. I wrote there for one season. I got one sketch on the air, which was on at 5 to 1 in the morning. And I quit in the middle of the season.
Said I basically walked in, you know, to the office of this guy and said, "F you, I'm out of here. This is bullshit. You shove this job up your ass," you know, and really just laid it on thick.
That's it. This is it. I'm done. Through. It's over. I'm gone. Finished. Over. I will never work for you again. Look at you. You think you're an important man? Is that what you think? You're nothing. You have no brains, no ability, nothing. I quit.
And on the way home, I realized that I was costing myself a year to live on in salary.
And decided to go back Monday morning like nothing had ever happened, or like it was a big joke. And you know, the guy called him on it, but he said, no, it was nothing. I was joking.
Am I crazy? Or didn't you quit?
Are you kidding? I didn't quit. Why? You took that seriously.
You mean laughing stock, all that stuff?
Come on, will you stop it?
No brains, no ability?
amazing. What?
Okay. I want you out of here.
You're serious, aren't you? Oh.
When I was dating Monica Yates, the daughter of Richard Yates, who was a great writer, her father had come into town, and he was staying at the Algonquin Hotel, appropriately enough, and she wanted me to meet him at the Algonquin Hotel, and I had just bought this suede jacket.
This jacket has completely changed my life. When I leave the house in this, it's with a whole different confidence. Like tonight, I might have been a little nervous, but inside this jacket, I am composed, grounded, secure that I can meet any social challenge.
Can I say one thing to you? And I say this with an unblemished record of staunch heterosexuality.
Absolutely.
It's fabulous.
I went with Monica to meet him at the Algonquin Hotel, and we had a drink, and he was every bit as intimidating as Alton Bennis.
Which one's supposed to be the funny guy?
Ah, he's the comedian.
We had a funny guy with us in Korea. Tail gunner. They blew his brains out all over the Pacific. There's nothing funny about that.
It started to snow outside, and I had on my suede jacket, and we were going to go from the Algonquin to another place for dinner, and we were going to walk there. And I saw that snow outside, and I knew that that was going to be the end of that jacket. The phone message with George, leaving a message on someone's answering machine and then regretting it. I have left some of the worst messages that I have regretted. So many messages I've left, particularly with women when I was single. And they've ended it for me. They totally, I'd leave a message and stammer and that was it. They never wanted to see me again.
So, you call me back. If you want. That's up to you, you know. Whatever you want to do. Either way. The ball's in your court. So, take it easy.
And of course, George Shapiro's pen.
We were in the office, you know, a writing session or something, and Larry didn't have a pen. I said, "Here's a pen. This is an astronaut pen." And I say, "Wow, it's beautiful." I said, "You can write upside down." I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, here, take the pen." And I said, "No, I can't take it. Take the pen. I'll get another pen."
And Larry didn't want to take it, and then he forced him to take it, and that was where that came from. And to this day, and I didn't know you were going to ask this question, I still have it.
It writes upside down. They use this in space.
Oh, wow, that's the astronaut pen. I heard about that. Where did you get it?
Oh, it was a gift.
Because a lot of times I write in bed, and I have to turn and lean on my elbow to make the pen work.
Take the pen.
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
I couldn't.
Come on, take the pen.
I can't take it.
Do me a personal favor.
No, I'm not
take
comfortable.
The pen.
I cannot take it.
Take the pen.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. Take the pen.
You had sex with the cleaning woman on your desk? Who are you? How did you do that?
Well, sometimes I'd be in the office working late at night, you know, and you know, being the horny Jew that I am, you know, occasionally a woman would be dusting around. We all have thoughts, and fortunately, I had an outlet for some of those.
Elaine and I, in real life, had these two friends, a woman and a man, who we had fixed up. And when we fixed them up, they started to get along really well and go out. It was working out really nicely. And we thought that we were geniuses because we had done this great matchmaking, you know. Then the relationship started to go badly, and Elaine and I started to blame each other for what happened with their relationship. And that was, we thought, so we were looking for an episode, so we pitched that idea. Larry and Jerry liked that idea. We ran off and literally in a day or two wrote a first draft of that episode.
George was in rare form. He just can't find anybody.
I know, Cynthia too. She's really given up.
George too.
Yeah,
right.
I've never fixed anybody up.
Ugh, me neither. And I am not about to start with George.
Well, enjoyed the game.
Thanks.
I think you better take off the Orioles cap.
Yeah, I better.
No, seriously. You're in the owner's box. I don't think it's a good idea.
You're not serious.
Yes, I am.
Well, didn't he say that?
No, but he gave me the seats. And I don't think he'd like it if you wore an Orioles cap.
Yeah, well, maybe you should ask him.
I don't have to ask him. Now, you going to take the hat off or not?
So Larry David asked me if I had any connections for seats at Anaheim. I said, yeah, I might. I know Gene Autry's accountant. He's a good friend. He said, see if you can get me some tickets. So I call Stan Schneider, the accountant, and I said, listen, can you help me out for Larry David for a couple of tickets? He says, yeah, I'll get you Gene's tickets in Gene Autry's box.
And I took a friend of mine who was wearing a Yankees cap. And it's around the third or fourth inning, and all of a sudden, one of the Angels executives comes down, taps my friend on the shoulder and says, you got to take that hat off. Mr. Autry doesn't like it if people are wearing Yankee caps. I thought that was the most astounding thing I ever heard. So, of course, I put it in an episode. We pitched the show in much the same way that Jerry and George pitched the show to the NBC executives on the series. Jerry and I came in, and I had no experience at all.
So what have you two come up with?
Well, we thought about this in a variety of ways, but the basic idea is I would play myself. Go ahead.
I think I can sum up the show for you with one word. Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
What does that mean?
The show is about nothing.
Well, it's not about nothing.
No, it's about nothing.
Well, maybe in philosophy, but even nothing is something.
What's the premise?
Well, as I was saying, I would play myself, and as a comedian living in New York, and I have a friend and a neighbor and an ex-girlfriend, which is all true.
Yeah, but nothing happens on the show. You see, it's just like life.
Well, why am I watching it?
Because it's on TV.
Not yet.
We pitched it as the one-camera show. And then I remember that they said, oh, no. This is not one camera. This is three cameras. This is a three-camera show. And I recoiled at the notion of a three-camera show.
I, for one, am not going to compromise my artistic integrity. And I'll tell you something else. This is the show, and we're not going to change it. Right?
No. This is not the show. And the room kind of went quiet, and I looked over at one of the Castle Rock executives, Glenn Padnick, and his eyes were popping out of his head. I think he thought that the whole thing was going to go up in smoke right there.
That was the famous meeting. If you think we're going to, if this is the idea, and if you think we're going to change it, we're not. Which nobody had even suggested changing it. But he was throwing down the meaningless gauntlet.
In that fourth season, we were to meet Russell Dalrymple, and he was the president of NBC, and that was played by actually a good friend of mine, Bob Balaban, who just seemed to delight in playing the persnickety and kind of silent but deadly officious little network guy.
I never thought I resembled Warren, except for the fact that he's fairly quiet, you know, he's kind of low-key. He has bright red hair, I don't, so I didn't really have to be like him. And I did see him around on the set, and it was kind of funny. I later on played Warren Littlefield on an HBO movie called The Late Shift, in which we really did try to look like our characters somewhat.
George Shapiro had called me and said that, you know, they're considering having you play you, meaning me. And fortunately, cooler heads prevailed, and they needed an actor, and they got an actor by the name of Kevin Page, and in rehearsal was playing the part of the NBC executive as a very pushy, sort of aggressive person, and Larry David allegedly went up to him and said, no, don't play it pushy. You have to say these lines as if you truly believe everything you're saying, like the NBC executive we really work with.
First of all, that was a terrific show.
Oh, thank you very much.
And basically, I just wanted to let you know that we've been discussing you at some of our meetings, and we'd be very interested in doing something.
I'm really glad to meet you, and we really liked your show. And I remember Michael Richards hitting me on the back and just laughing off camera as we're watching this run-through. And I then had a picture taken with Kevin Page, both of us pointing at each other. And about a week later, I was in New York at Saturday Night Live, and a couple of the people on Saturday Night Live, knowing full well that that wasn't in fact me in the Seinfeld episode, they said to me, "You were very good last night, very good, very funny."
I'm embarrassed to say that the panty remark is actually something that happened to me, and I told it to Larry, thinking he'd never let that go in. He says, "Yeah, that's great." And it was a true story about years ago, before I met my sainted wife, way before that, dating a girl, and she wanted me to be a little naughty verbally to her, and I just went past the mark. I went too far. And I could say all of a sudden, she focused, looked at me like I was, you know, John Wayne Gacy, but I even then thought, this is so funny, you know, just, well, you said talk, I didn't, you know, okay, I got excited, you know.
So she's talking about her panties. So I said, "You mean the panties your mother laid out for you?"
The panties your mother laid out for you?
I was doing volunteer work for a foster grandfather. I had taken in this old man, and he turned out to be a very boring man. I expected an elderly man to have stories about the world and the Depression. This guy had nothing to say, and every week I sat there just bored out of my mind saying, this guy has no perspective on anything. I hate being here. When is this guy going to die? I mean, it was terrible to say that.
I'm grateful for every moment I have.
Grateful? How can you be grateful when you're so close to the end?
I actually brought the old man to that episode. He stood up and took a bow. I don't know if he knew where he was or what was going on. He was 111 at that time, but it was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Also in that episode, there was a story where George tries to get to Detroit on the cheap because his girlfriend's aunt has died. And I once did try to get a Death in the Family fare fraudulently because American Airlines had canceled my bonus miles, so I tried to do it the cheap way, and I literally said to them,
"You want my friend to ask his uncle, a man who just lost his wife of 44 years, for a death certificate so that he can save a few bucks on a flight?"
That would be $387 round trip.
All right, so you'll need my frequent flyer number, huh?
Yes.
Now, I had also been to a party where I noticed that somebody had double-dipped a potato chip. And that's where I was thinking, double dip, that sounds good. I had that lying around. So combine that, you know, the double dip served to ruin everything for George.
The barber was inspired by a real barber I had in Stamford, Connecticut, who was a very talented barber, and was on the verge of retiring and had been working a very long time and was getting a little shaky and probably knew it. And it was really awkward because my haircuts were getting worse, and I felt this real sense of loyalty to him, but here were these other great barbers doing a great job in this very shop, and I tried to pick a day that I thought Victor wouldn't be there, but he was there, and...
Ah, Jetty! Oh, hi, Enzo.
Oh, you come for the haircut.
No, actually, I was just gonna...
It's my day off, but I take care of you anyway, because you're my favorite customer. You've been with me for so long. You're so loyal.
I was sitting in the editing room, and I was going to go out to get something to eat, and I asked our editor what she wanted, and she said she'd like a big salad.
So Janet Ashikaga, who's our editor, had ordered a big salad. Carol, my assistant, brings her the big salad.
I had bought the salad, and Carol handed it to her, and she thanked Carol.
And Larry is upset that he doesn't get credit for making sure she got the big salad.
If it was a regular salad, I wouldn't have said anything. But you had to have the big salad!
And I thought, you know, I bought the damn salad.
Hey! Hey, watch it! Did you see that guy? He just gave me the finger.
You sure?
Oh, yeah! Middle finger straight up at me. At us.
What are you doing?
I'm following him.
You know, that happened to me when I came back from Hawaii. I was getting on the on-ramp, and here we'd been in Hawaii for 10 days, all nice and rested, and my wife and kids were asleep, and this guy flipped me off, and I didn't have any place to go, so I followed him for about an hour.
No one gives us the finger. We're Yankees.
What's last donut?
Oh, you can have it.
We talked about a guy we knew at college who ate his Snickers bar with a knife and fork, and Larry said, oh, you should put that in the show.
Tom Gamble had bought the John Voight car.
Which was really cool, because that was the original. I remember the day you bought that car. It's like, maybe I'll get to meet John Voight, because I bought his car.
You bought a car because it belonged to John Voight?
No.
I think yes. You like the idea of telling people you're driving John Voight's car.
All right, maybe I do. So what?
By fictionalizing what was a true story, you actually got to meet John Voight.
Taxi! Taxi! Hey! John Voight! John Voight!
Hey, listen. Can I ask you something? Listen. Wait.
Oh, God!
This chain of events that got you, Tom Gamble, to meet John Voight, and he turned the corner and just took one look at the car and just went, I've never seen that car before in my life. It was great. I felt very vindicated.
Yeah.
Kramer was filing a lawsuit against the fictional Starbucks in the Maestro, and he needed a lawyer, and this is when the O.J. trial was going on. And Johnny Cochran was such a colorful, larger-than-life personality, so we based a character on him, Jackie Childs.
They wanted a guy who could imitate Johnny Cochran, or not necessarily imitate him, but mock him in a way. I mean, it was literally in the breakdown, and my agent told me about it. Well, I've known Johnny Cochran since I was a little kid. We've gone to the same barbershop in LA since I was about 7 or 8 years old. So I've seen him when he was a public defender, and he drove this broke-down Seville, and he would pontificate on things from like the Raiders moving from Oakland to LA and what that all meant. I mean, so I'd seen this guy in the barbershop knowing he was kind of a big macher, you know, and not having any clue that I was kind of doing subliminal research.
I was pitching a bunch of stories to Larry and Jerry. I don't even remember what they were. I was all over the place. I wasn't very good at it. And at the end, when I felt a little comfortable, I started telling them the story about this guy who sells soup in New York down the street from David Letterman that I used to get, and he was called the Soup Nazi. And, you know, I'd heard when you get Larry to laugh, you know you've sold a story or you've got a story you're going to do. And the both of them started laughing hysterically, so of course I was encouraged and kept going on with it. And after they stopped laughing, they said, do that as your first story. And I said, I said, what are you talking about? I was just telling you a story. They go, no, that's a show. Do that as your first show.
The strange thing for me is I had experienced that soup kitchen without realizing that I was dealing with the soup. I mean, I had eaten there many, many times and just had not had the experience that Spike had had.
I lived on 55th Street between Broadway and 8th Avenue, and across the street from me was the Soup Kitchen International run by this guy Al, who would constantly short me on the strawberry. There was like a strawberry that you get, sometimes you get it, sometimes you didn't get it, and the soup was incredibly expensive, but very, very good, and you know, you weren't sure, did you get the bread, did you not get the bread, should you complain, should you not? There were long lines, and you were like, you know, try not to piss the guy off, and now I'm doing the Soup Nazi, it's about that guy.
Jerry walked by Spike Ferriston and he said, tell Larry a little bit about, you know, the real guy. And I just looked at Spike and I said, there's a real guy?
We were working on the 8th season in New York with Jerry and the writers, and Jerry said, let's go to the Soup Nazi for lunch. And I said, it's really not a good idea. And he said, why? I made him famous. I go, he doesn't see it that way. He sees you as ruining his life. And he goes, come on. So reluctantly, the group of us trooped down to the Soup Nazi, and
Jerry got in line, and when Jerry's turn came up, it was like a triple take the Soup Nazi did. He kept looking and looking, because I guess there'd been a lot of Jerry Seinfeld impersonators coming, but here's the real deal. And he had his money there, and he said, you and he just started unloaded on him. And then kept unloading on him, and then kept unloading on him, and kept going. It was a very uncomfortable moment. People were shocked. And he goes, I demand an apology. And Jerry turned around and gave the most sarcastic apology I've ever seen anyone give. I'm sorry, like that. And he went, no, it's so for you.
The fact that he got so upset by the publicity was great.
So right before I left New York, I moved into an apartment building that only lets you move furniture on certain days. And I made it, one day I made it in with my giant TV under the wire. But I was thinking, what happens if I did, what would have happened had I not done that? And I'd been stuck with that TV from Saturday afternoon way on through to Monday morning.
What do you mean I can't bring it in here? I live here.
It's Sunday, Elaine. There's no moving on Sunday. That's the rule.
But I didn't know, Tom. Can't you just make an exception, please? I've got a nice face.
Tomorrow. Okay, you move it in tomorrow. I'll even give you a hand, all right?
Oh. Well, you're just gonna have to hold this for me.
I'm the guy on the sidewalk. I don't have a layaway.
The secret code story came from just the idea.
You said you were going to the bank,
right.
and she said, "Oh, here's my ATM card. You know, just get me some money too."
Hey, I gotta get some cash. I'm gonna run down to the ATM.
Yeah, I gotta grab some too.
Oh, I'll get it for you. Just give me your card.
You sure?
Yeah. Just tell me your code.
George was engaged, and so we were doing these engagement stories, and it was a lot about losing his space and his freedom, and that was one of the things that hit me about being in a relationship was, am I expected to give my ATM code to this person?
I had buddies who, in their dorm room, their phone number in Boston, 777 film, is 333 film, and that was basically their number was like one off.
Well, this new telephone number is driving me crazy. Wrong numbers every 5 minutes.
What is it?
Well, it's 555-3455.
555-3455.
Yeah.
555-3455. Well, wait a second, don't you see? That's 555 Filk.
What's Filk?
Filk's nothing, but 555 film is movie phone.
Oh, movie phone.
Only Kramer would attempt to actually take something as annoying as that and try and help people that were calling.
Hello, and welcome to Movie Phone.
The Gum was based on my assistant director, Randy Carter, and Randy was very involved and is still very involved in a theater in Glendale called the Alex Theater, and they have a great film program there where they show classics.
What is this?
Yeah, well, it's the latest offering from the Alex Theater.
When I got here, I bought a car, and the used car salesman told me it had belonged to John Voight.
Snazzy car.
The Baron? Yeah, 83. Used to belong to John Voight, the actor, right? Something like that.
So one Sunday morning, we were having our table reading, and he was late coming in. And everyone was wondering, where's Tom? And he showed up after the reading with a great story that the car had completely destroyed itself on the highway on the way there. It had turned into a smoking wreck.
Well, when you have a scene that's really taken very closely from real life, that's, you know, that's really not even writing. That's the easiest thing. The trick is to see that that was a funny scene just the way it happened.
Your hose! Where's your hose? Cop made me disconnect it.
We gotta stop off and pick up a marble rye from Schnitzer's.
It's out of our way! The Rye episode actually started with an idea that a friend of mine from high school told me.
Oh, we have to go to Schnitzer's. I'll show these people something about taste.
She said that her friends had brought a bread over to eat with the meal, and the hostess mistakenly put it away and didn't realize that she never served it. And after the evening had been over and the guests had left, she went into the kitchen to look for the bread and realized that they had taken the bread back.
The episode of The Caddy took me by surprise because I didn't anticipate Jackie coming back. I mean, how often can they bring an attorney into this mix? And then here we have, I guess, a year or two of the Simpson trial.
I think Larry and Jerry were pretty obsessed with that trial, and so they were really happy to have this opportunity to make fun of it.
You're close. You're on the green. You just have to go for the cup.
What do you mean?
Have her try on the bra, see if it fits.
My father was president of the condo in Florida, where he lived. And I bought him this Lexus. I know people must have been commenting about the Lexus down there. Where did he get that Lexus?
I thought Elaine with with Rob Schneider, who I knew from Saturday Night Live, with the hearing aid, was a very fun story based on a kid I went to high school with, who wore a hearing aid, and whenever it was called upon, if he did not know the answer, he would go to the hearing aid, and that just fascinated my friends and I, that he got away with this for so long.
Hi, everybody. Bob, we have a little baptism by fire for you, so to speak.
Poor bastard.
I want you to handle all the fact-checking and the copy editing for the new catalog.
Could you repeat that?
Why don't you handle all the copy editing?
I'm sorry, what?
Copy editing. Never mind. Elaine, you do it.
The wig master was a friend of the girl I was living with, and he wanted to come stay with us.
This friend of Susan's is staying with us for 2 weeks. Now, am I wrong, or is that excessive?
My girlfriend said, I'll ask Spike if he could stay longer. And I said no.
Hi, George. How was your day?
Good day. You?
I am getting so much work done. See?
Very nice.
Hey, sweetie, how's your day?
I already asked him that. Said, good day.
He came, ended up staying for 2 days, and I made his life a living hell. And he left.
How did that get into my car?
Hey, look, you walk in this city, you gotta expect things are gonna stick to your foot. You hop in your car and ping, condom.
That doesn't explain the lipstick on the dashboard.
That's something that was going on with me in New York. I started parking at this really cheap place, and I had a Jeep CJ5 that the doors didn't lock in, and I'd open the doors, and I'd be finding these used condoms in there. And it turned out, you know, hookers were turning tricks in there.
You would spend 16 hours a day locked in your little room, and a lot of times you'd be beating your head against the wall trying to come up with some story idea. How are we going to make this work? How are we going to make this work? And then finally it's like, all right, I got to get something to eat or I'm going to pass out. I've been here too long. And I remember that tip jar thing. We went across the street to a little Mexican joint that was right across the street, and I saw the tip, and I put $1 in, and the guy didn't see it. And it was like the 2 minutes that I left that office, I got a story idea.
$6.50 your change. Ah, yes. And I always take care of my paisano. So here's a little something.
Antonio!
Si!
Vieni qua! Questa miserabile patrone! Karate, Jerry, karate. It's the lifetime pursuit of balance and harmony.
But with punching and kicking.
Jerry, karate is not here. It's here, and here, and here.
We have a friend, a college friend, who started taking karate, and he was really full of himself. He was talking about how much ass he was kicking, and
I'm a yellow belt,
he's
now
really
I'm a green
good.
belt, now I'm a blue belt.
And it turned out, I mean, this is a 21-year-old guy who's in beginning karate class, and it turns out he's fighting like 8-year-old kids, and he's just whooping up on them.
The nap was based on this person Greg knew and worked with who used to nap under his desk. I guess a lot of people at Greg's workplace caught onto that and started napping under their desks.
We had these big open cubicles that were really impossible to slack off at.
George, have you seen that American League directory? It's a big green book.
Right here?
Thanks, kiddo.
One of my friends showed me the secret way not to work, which was basically to crawl under the desk, pull the chair in behind you so it blocked pretty much the whole desk entrance, and take a nap. And he would do it, honestly, every day. And he had times when one of the partners would come by and leave work for him on the desk while he was sleeping beneath it and never be the wiser. So that seemed like a real perfect George story.
So 20 years after my friend had converted,
I heard him make a Jewish joke, and it suddenly dawned on me, oh my God, you know, I almost completely forgot that he had converted. I wonder how long it took him to feel comfortable making a Jewish joke after he converted. And so I was thinking, gee, wouldn't it be funny if like 2 days later he was doing it?
For the Muffin Tops episode, we had a scene where Kramer's giving this reality tour, you know, echoes of Kenny Kramer's reality tour, which is based on the character Kramer, based on Kenny Kramer. There are like 6 levels there.
It was this incredible onion of reality and fiction that layered up on top of itself. It was one of my favorite things about the show.
I was really interested in that idea of taking something that was based on our show that became real and then making it part of our show again.
The Kramer character was called Kessler in the pilot because Larry was positive and correctly predicted that if we involve Kenny Kramer in any way in this show, he will exploit it to the maximum and become a complete pain, which of course he did.
The core idea was, how could this possibly be entertaining to anyone, this tour that the real-life Kramer is doing in New York?
He came on the set a few times. He just wanted a picture with me so bad. And I took a picture with him, and then it was like 2 weeks later he calls me up in the nature of Kramer and wanted my permission, legally now, to use the picture. He wanted to exploit the picture and create something around the picture, and I was really taken back by that. I was on my guard with Kenny, particularly when he was going around saying, I am the real Kramer.
Hi, I'm Kenny Kramer, the real Kramer. You know, the guy that character on Seinfeld was based on? A lot of people may not recognize me like this. Probably you remember me more like this. Because you see, when I decided I was going to shamelessly cash in on my illustrious name, I came up with this concept that what I need to do is create a brand. Something that you wouldn't mistake me for Cosmo. I figured his hair as long goes up, I have long hair, it goes down.
If you really want Kramer, this is what he's doing is, well, you know, he's Hollywood. It's something. So I got very defensive about it. And of course, Larry David thought it was very amusing, the rift that was going on between us. I wouldn't give Kenny the rights to the picture, to that photograph, because I didn't know how he was going to use it.
And the more I read about it, the free pizza bagel at the end and the stops, it just seemed like the worst hour and a half anybody could ever spend.
I was flattered. I mean, it's great, you know. First of all, it was a publicity bonanza for the tour, first of all. And secondly, you know, I thought it was hilariously funny. You know, and what I didn't realize, I found out later when I talked to Spike Fearson, who wrote that episode, that they had called New York to the tour line, and I happened to answer it. And they had me on the phone, and they realized it was me, and all the writers were sitting at a speakerphone listening as he picked my brains for, like, how long is it, and how much does it cost, and where does it go, and, you know, and I think he had me send a brochure to somebody.
Later on, I got it, and then Kenny and I became good friends. I just let it go, particularly when he was doing the reality tour, and then we based an episode on the reality tour. I started thinking, okay, I get it. It's okay. It's good that we've got someone in New York working the show over. I mean, it was really enhancing the show and just bringing more attention to what we were creating. And Kenny was really a part of the team.
Okay, coming up on the right, if you glance up, you'll just make out my bedroom window. It's the one that's covered in chicken wire.
Hey, if you're the real Peterman, how come you're wearing those ratty clothes? What? Well, they're not very romantic.
Well, that's your opinion.
Cool thing I remember about the Muffin Tops is the 2 days before we shot it, there was a different story in there. There was a story about, I used to have one of these Bearcat scanners, and I would sit with a margarita in a lounge chair in New York and just listen to my neighbors' conversations. That's the type of guy I was. And that week, Frasier, I think, had done that story. So it was blown out. It was blown out 2 days before we shot. So we sat one afternoon and thought of what can we do to replace it. And I remembered I had this girlfriend, this girl I was dating, Lori, in New York, who never ate muffin bottoms. He was only eating the muffin tops.
I can't believe somebody pulled the top off this muffin.
That was me. I'm sorry. I don't like the stumps.
The seat filler thing started at the People's Choice Awards that we went to for Seinfeld. that whenever one of us would get up to go to the bathroom, some weird person would come and sit down.
And we would actually sort of try and screw each other. Like, if you knew that there was going to be a long time, you could see who was coming down the barrel of the seat filler gun. And if it was going to be some really weird person, I remember just turning to someone and going, all right, I'm out of here. And you just watch that person truck down and sit there for a while and just watch your friend suffer. But yeah, it was the whole idea was how to get Michael up there and get him how to get Kramer a Tony.
There was an actress who played a part on the show in one episode, who I'm not going to name, but Jeff and I had written some jokes for the Oscars one year, and we got tickets to the Oscars. So I asked this girl if she wanted to go to the Oscars, and she said yes.
Who wouldn't want to go to the Oscars?
Sure, of course. And if it happens to be with me, I guess that's
young Alec, and you can
swallow that pill.
You can hop in and defend yourself again at any time here. Young Alec, full of enthusiasm, is going to go to the Oscars, squiring this beautiful blonde actress as his date.
Yes.
And
all true so far.
All true. And he shows up at the door, and the actress looks beautiful and
stunning, actually.
Stunning. And she was a beautiful girl. There's only one problem. She had a dude.
Should we go?
Absolutely.
Lyle, we're going.
All right.
Jerry, this is Lyle.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay.
Have a good time.
Thanks. Lyle.
It was more than a peck, but not quite a smooch. So I didn't quite know where I stood, but I kind of had a suspicion.
When I went to pick her up, there was this dude.
How do you know it was her dude?
Well, you think it could have been just some dude?
Sure, dudes in this town are a dime a dozen.
I reckon.
Or maybe she just wanted to go to the Tonys. I tell you what, you ask her out again, no Tony, just Jerry. That way you know if the dude is her dude or just some dude.
Dude.
Yeah.
That episode was called The Dude forever.
The Dude.
Until it became, we wrapped all the stuff into end of the season with it, and then it was the Summer of George. But, I mean, that was the great thing about working on Seinfeld is that anytime you feel awkward or you're embarrassing yourself in public, the upside is that maybe that's a story.
In The Voice, Jerry has a girlfriend whose stomach talks to her. This insane conceit for an idea.
What's that?
Oh, it's just a stupid thing.
Well, I'm sure it's stupid. It's not about me, is it?
No.
Not at all.
Oh, me.
All right. You know this girl Claire I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Well, he and I started joking that when she falls asleep, her stomach stays awake all night and talks to me.
How's he talking?
Well, the belly button's like a mouth. I'm bored. Talk to me.
Oh, I gotta start taking these stupid warnings more seriously.
And it comes from this girl I'd been dating, Larissa, where one night I couldn't sleep, and I was just laying in bed next to her, and it's so stupid to even say this. I just thought, wouldn't it be funny if while she was asleep, her ass started talking to me?
And it became like a little running joke amongst the writers that they would just joke about. But it was an insane kind of thing that comedy writers will kind of harp on.
And it became this whole fiction for like a month. Larissa's ass, which she didn't know about, could talk, and it was learning how to talk, and it learned new, the capitals of states and different things on a daily basis. And at night, when Larissa fell asleep, it would entertain me and keep me up, and that's why I wasn't sleeping. So it was this really inside joke, and at one point I shared it with Jerry.
But that was oftentimes where we got our ideas, or things that people thought, well, you can't do that on TV. And I thought it would be cheap if we did it coming out of that body part. I thought people might think that we were going for a cheap laugh, which I always hated. So I thought, let's change it to the belly button, so it doesn't seem like we're, doing a body function type joke. And I wish we had done it the way it really was.
So, is it fun humiliating me?
No, it's not you. It's your stomach. He's talking with this funny, booming, jovial voice. Hello.
So you think I'm fat?
No, it's...
Mr. Kramer says, hey, buddy.
Look, we're kind of in the middle of something here. Would you mind coming back later?
Oh, yeah, sure. Should we set something up now?
Get out!
I'm leaving too.
Look, nobody said you're fat. He's a lovable character. He's like the Kool-Aid guy.
He is fat!
No, he's just a little bloated.
Goodbye!
That night I went home and shared it with Larissa, and she left. I came back the next day to Seinfeld. I said, she left. He goes, why did you tell her? What's wrong with you? Which is the scene I think is in there. And he said, now we have our second scene. He goes, go home again. Try to talk to her again. See what happens.
So you're sure you're not still angry about last night?
No, I'm fine. Just as long as you don't ever do that voice again.
Never?
Never.
Well, what about if you're not around?
No.
So I have to choose between seeing you and doing the voice?
That's right.
I can do that.
What's your decision?
I don't know.
It's very infectious. I mean, even during the week, we never seem to tire of it. We, everyone, the crew and everybody, we did the voice.
What?
Nothing. It's a card from my dad.
What is it? Dear son, happy Festivus? What is Festivus?
It's nothing.
The idea for Festivus comes from the demented mind of Danny
That
O'Keefe.
is pure Danny O'Keefe.
I did not pitch Festivus as an episode. In fact, I had totally blocked it out of my mind.
Danny O'Keefe had a family that is rich in insanity.
Colorful, to say the least.
Yeah, and so we knew that his family life, his personal stories were going to be absolutely perfect for Frank Costanza, and the O'Keefes actually celebrated Festivus.
They were just speechless and at the sheer oddity of it, and they said, well, you should write an episode about it. I was like, oh, I don't know about that. I think we should leave that alone. And they said, no, this needs to be on television. The story needs to be told.
At the Festivus dinner, you gather your family around and tell them all the ways they have disappointed you over the past year.
And is there a tree?
No, instead there's a pole. Requires no decoration. I find tinsel distracting.
He embellished it a little bit with the metal pole. I don't think they actually do that, but if you're going to embellish with something, what a great way to do it with a metal pole.
George, Festivus is your heritage. It's part of who you are. That's why I hate it.
On the show, we said Festivus took place on December 23rd. I think Frank says to get a leg up on the competition. But in reality, it didn't really have a set date. It was that which made it all the more ominous. It was a floating holiday. It could happen pretty much any time. We were given very little notice.
Hey.
Boy, am I glad to see you.
Are you expecting someone else?
Two-Face thing, that was based on a real woman I went to college with who I would occasionally try to approach, and then she'd turn her head and the light would catch her wrong and she would look like a creature of the deep. She was alternately beautiful and malformed looking. It was a real phenomenon. It reminded me of the character of Two-Face, Harvey Dent, District Attorney of Gotham.
So attractive one day, not attractive the next.
Have you come across this?
Yes, I am familiar with this syndrome. She's a Two-Face.
Like the Batman villain?
If that helps you.
The whole idea of the Christmas card, a donation's been made in your name, was actually because every Christmas we get a Christmas card from Castle Rock, who produced the Seinfeld.
Something from Watley.
See? You give and you get. This is what I'm trying to teach you.
This holiday season, a donation has been made in your name to the Children's Alliance.
Oh, that's nice.
I got him Yankee tickets. He got me a piece of paper saying I've given your gift to someone else.
To a children's charity.
Don't you see how wrong that is? Where's your Christmas spirit?
It would always be a donation's been made in your name. Would always sort of go, well, geez, I wonder how much that would be so I can at least get the tax deduction. And we finally decided, well, that's the most selfish thought in the world. That should be George.
One of the most exciting things about that episode was Ben and Jerry creating an ice cream flavor called Festivus.
So it's odd to think that a family holiday became an ice cream.
That was one of the proudest moments of the show when we had an ice cream.
My father's reaction to the whole Festivus phenomenon, such as it is, was at first he was a little sort of weirded out by it, but eventually it became, yes, vindication, you know. He thought his message was getting out. He was very excited about it.